So the new iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max have been announced, and this is my take from a filmmaker's point of view. Because even though this year's iPhone, it does genuinely feel like a big and solid upgrade from a previous model compared to what happened in other years, you need to step back and look at things from a perspective to see whether this is an upgrade that is worth doing. Because Apple's marketing is gonna make you look like this is the best thing ever, but it's not quite what it looks. And there are a couple of things right off the bat that I genuinely think they are fantastic, and it's great that Apple is introducing them to the iPhone 15. Because you can now finally record on a good and reliable log color space that you can then grade in post-production, and the footage is gonna look absolutely amazing. And another thing that is fantastic, and it's gonna open up a lot of possibilities, is the fact that you can now record externally onto a recorder. Because recording high-res footage onto an iPhone has a major impact on the overheating of the iPhone itself and the amount of processing that the sensor has to do. It goes without saying that you're gonna have a lot more flexibility in post. So that in itself, I think, is gonna be fantastic. Now, all of this happens because the European Union forced Apple to change from the Lightning port to the USB-C. So regardless of whatever marketing Apple is gonna ram down your throat that they decided to do this, no, that wasn't them. That was the EU forcing them to do it. And now obviously they're gonna jump on board and says, well, we have 20 times more speed than we have with the Lightning port. Well, we may as well just give all these features, which is a benefit for us, the consumer. But this is not something that Apple had intended in the first place. Obviously, having a USB-C port that can give you 20 times faster download speeds than the Lightning port is gonna have a massive improvement on data transfer and workflows. Now, the question is whether Apple is gonna lock that to the proprietary cables and is gonna reduce that speed if you use any USB-C, which I wouldn't be surprised that they do that. Now, when we go to the main aspect of these phones that every filmmaker is looking forward to, is where things start to get a little bit funny, in my opinion, okay? Because Apple gives you this new periscope lens setup, which it looks like science fiction that they've managed to fit that in such a small device. And you still have your ultra wide, which is a macro, your standard lens, your telephoto, and whether you go for the Pro or Pro Max, it will go up to 77 or 120. I can't believe they can fit a 120mm lens inside an iPhone that is like this. It's mind-blowing. The devil is in the detail, and this is where things start to get a little bit confusing for me. Because when you look at the progression of the lenses from the 13 Pro Max, which I genuinely believe was a leap forward from any previous versions, to what the 14 offered and now the 15, you start asking yourself, well, where are the genuine improvements? The truth is that things have not really improved that much. For instance, the main lens has almost the same specifications as in the 14 Pro Max, which is a 48 megapixels with an f-stop of 1.78. So in that regard, unless they do something on computational photography, you are more or less getting the same deal. This is a big improvement from the 13 Pro Max, which it was a 12 megapixels lens. But the advantage of the 13 Pro Max was that it was an f-stop of 1.5. So you could get more light. And this is where I'll come later when I tell you about the things that I think Apple has chosen not to speak about that are very relevant to anybody that does filmmaking or content creation. And the same applies to the ultra wide. It's a 13mm f2.2, exactly the same as the 14 Pro Max. And the 13 Pro Max was also a 13mm, but on the 13 Pro Max was an f-stop of 1.8. You lose maybe a little bit of quality, but the 13 Pro Max has more light coming in. It compensates for any improvements that the newer lenses can do. So again, I don't really see a major upgrade there. When it comes to the telephoto, whether it's the 13 Pro Max, 14 or 15 Pro Max, you have 12 megapixels f2.8. Nothing has improved, even though the 15 Pro Max will have this periscope type of system built into the actual phone. It's still gonna be an f2.8. And you know full well that when you use the telephoto lens on anything that is not perfect, ideal conditions, that lens sucks. I mean, like, the image quality drops dramatically the moment you get even a glimpse of low light. Let's face it, Apple is not reinventing the wheel. I mean, it's been around for many years in other brands. And this is what feels a little bit annoying and disappointing to me, because you get the technology that is incredible. The problem is that if you're gonna implement it, why don't you implement it in a way that can be genuinely used in more situations than just in perfect conditions? It's great, don't get me wrong. I mean, to have a range from a macro lens that you get on the ultra wide all the way to 120 millimeter in this footprint, it's insane, no matter how you look at it. But it's whether you are actually gonna use those lenses or whether you're just gonna use the main lens and the ultra wide, which is what I think most people will still use. A couple of other things that are good improvements, even though I don't think they are that major, is the screen resolution is great. And even though it's not what I would call an eye-popping upgrade from the 14 Pro Max or even the 13 Pro Max, the one thing that I picked up on that I think is really great is the fact that it has now a 2000 nits peak brightness when you're outdoors. That's fantastic, because you're not gonna have any issues watching your footage or looking at your phone when you're filming. The downside of this is the overheating, and we'll come to this very shortly because it's gonna have a big impact on this, and I haven't seen Apple mention anything or addressing this issue. If you're gonna call a phone Pro and you're gonna give all these features, the least you can do is to make sure that the software correlates to the hardware. I've always felt the iPhones have really good hardware, but sometimes when it comes to video, okay, the software is nowhere near of the same quality. And for photography and photographers, I think the iPhone 15s are insane, because the ability now that you have with the main lens at 48 megapixels to just take photos and then use the depth map that gets embedded in the actual photo to apply the blur background in portrait mode. It's incredible, because if there is one thing that I always found irritating with an iPhone is when you go into portrait photography, it's just how slow it is to take a photo. It's almost like you miss the moment when you want to capture something that is happening right in front of you. Whereas now you can just take photos and choose the one that you like and change the look and feel of the photo. And I think that's incredible. And the fact that you have 3 focal lengths within the same lens, I think that's great. But for video, this is incredibly irritating, because you have no way of setting the exposure, the white balance, and the ISO manually, especially if you go for cinematic mode, okay, which is the one thing that they've been pumping in previous years that they hardly mention, if no mention at all this year, even though the video was shot on cinematic mode. But there are no manual adjustments for these things, and these are essential, because if you use your iPhone on the camera app or on cinematic static and nothing moves, then you are gonna be fine. But the moment that camera moves, the white balance is gonna change, the colors, the brightness, everything changes. If you go from a bright area to a shadow area, like for instance, let's say that you walk underneath a tree, for instance, you know, there is this massive swing in exposure that you probably don't want it. It's okay if you do your everyday videos, filming your dog or your kids running around the house, but if you want to do anything that is a little bit professional, and that's why these phones have the Pro label attached to it, you cannot do it. And cinematic mode is locked to the iPhone app and Final Cut Pro. You cannot use with a third-party app or a third-party software like DaVinci Resolve, Avid or Premiere Pro. So you are literally stuck. And this is one of the reasons why I don't use my iPhone as much as I thought I would, because sometimes all you do is a static shot, but many times you put the phone on a gimbal and what happens there? You know, the phone is changing exposure and white balance all over the place. And yes, you can tap, hold and lock the autofocus and the exposure, but you are genuinely locking the focus. I mean, you move back and forth and your shot is out of focus. So this is one area that I really wish Apple would address, because this is what makes me think that these phones should be called Ultra and Ultra Plus or Max, because they don't give you the software that goes along with the hardware so that professionals can generally use it. And the next one is to do with lens flares. And yes, they did mention that now lenses have a sort of a coating to minimize this effect, but they didn't say that they got rid of it. I am very keen to see what is the level of reduction on the lens flares, because there is nothing more annoying than taking your iPhone at nighttime and get all that beautiful low light footage and then have these green dots all over the place. Basically, I never use my iPhone on low light at night, in the streets, or in any environment where there are lights. Anybody that sees that footage, he knows straight away that was shot on an iPhone, and you should know better and use something else. It's so distracting, and I can't believe that we are here in 2023 with an iPhone 15 Pro Max, and this is an issue that has been going on for a decade already. So how about if Apple pulls their finger from where they have to pull it out and do something about it, because it's so freaking annoying. And I am 100% sure that I am not the only person that feels this way. And lastly, the one area or aspect that stops me from using my iPhone more often, if not ever, when I'm filming, is overheating. Because they give us a screen that is twice as bright outdoors, which means twice as much overheating potential. So they haven't addressed this at all. And yes, okay, you can record externally, which obviously is going to reduce the overheating, but you're not going to be carrying an external drive all the time. So many times you are in the middle of something and suddenly the screen starts to go dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. What the hell is that? And yeah, I understand that now with the titanium body and framing, it's going to be better in terms of cooling, but you're still going to have overheating issues purely from a filmmaking and content creation. Before you go and press the pre-order and buy these iPhones, I would really think carefully and look at this from a perspective. Take a step back. Is upgrading to an iPhone 15 worth it? Wait until people review the actual phone. Look at the different samples, because a lot of the content that you're gonna see is gonna be paid, and you need to filter through all that garbage and find the legit and genuine reviewers out there that will give you the good and the bad, because the perfect product doesn't exist, and this one isn't either. And this is the angle that I'm hoping that I'm getting across. That things on paper may look right, but the reality may be a different story. And I hope you enjoyed this video and my different perspective on these phones, and I'll see you in the next one.